Zinc Media. Feel the power of knowledge.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain great absolute rights, and among these are life, liberty, and pursuit of
Good evening, my fellow Americans. Yes, it is I, Rod Eccles Show, coming to you live from my Bunker Home studio, somewhere within the great granite state of New Hampshire. Yes, indeed. It is Monday. June the 10th in the year of our Lord 2013, and we are back this evening for the Rod Eccles Show Express program. Only 1 hour tonight, but we will be back again tomorrow, 2 hours for the rest of the week, Tuesday through Friday, as we solidify our schedule process here for the Rod Eccles Show. Now, a lot has happened over the weekend, including, well, as you know, the Zimmerman-Martin case is starting to get underway. They're starting the jury selection process for the Zimmerman defense trial. And the typical idiosos are back, weighing in. Oh, Zimmerman is so guilty in this and that. Look, it's even gotten to the point where when you point out the fact, well, this guy is in our country, he's innocent until proven guilty. And all these people will say, well, yeah, that's the way our system works, but this guy is guilty. Well, how do you know? Because he disobeyed an order. Now, look, first of all, none of us outside of the Zimmerman case know all the facts. So let me be clear. None of us know. I don't particularly care at this particular point if Zimmerman is innocent or guilty. The point is that he's innocent until proven guilty. Now, from what and it's kind of amazing how people pick and choose facts. Well, Zimmerman was so much bigger than really. No, let's go back a year or so, a little over a year ago, when Zimmerman was literally about half the size he is now. See, this is where you catch people, because they're looking at Zimmerman has put on a lot of weight. And, it's probably due, well, it's not probably, it is due to the stress of this lifestyle change, if you want to call it. And he's probably not anywhere near as active as he was when he lost the weight before, because he used to be fat. Then he got pretty, skinny. And he's a short guy. He's not very tall. He's only like 5'8", 5'9". And Martin was about 6 foot or taller. What was he? 6'2", I think, was the final tally in this kid. And he was a football star, so he was athletic. I'm not saying he was all that muscular, but even today, by today's standards, 180, young and athletic, quick, fast, tall, had the reach. And, you even tell people, well, geez, Zimmerman was really banged up. We see photographs of him at the scene. I mean, he was banged up. Well, the reason why Martin wasn't banged up is because he's dead. Well, no, the body still tells the tale of being in an altercation, even after the body dies. Now, of course, I get the note. Well, this isn't CSI, man. It doesn't happen that way. Well, actually, it does. The body tells a lot of that's how we're able to figure out what the hell goes on with the dead body. What happened to them? Because the body tells it all. Now, obviously, he's not going to swell up like a balloon, and get all pussy and everything like Zimmerman can. But bruises happen pretty darn quick once they happen. It doesn't take very long. And look, if you ever watch any type of fight, mixed martial arts or boxing or even karate matches and stuff, people they're getting their adrenaline's flowing. They get knocked around in that ring, and it's not too long. It doesn't take very long for swelling on certain parts of the body to set in and bruising to start occurring. It doesn't take long. And the very fact is that we don't know what the ME, medical examiner, has said fully. We'll find out in the trial. I'm sure all that stuff is going to be brought out in the trial. Exactly the condition of Martin's body. But it's just really idiotic to assume. Well, he disobeyed police. I hear this a lot still. No, Zimmerman did not disobey the police. You see, a 911 operator is not a cop. A 911 operator cannot order you to do or not do anything. As a matter of fact, we have the tapes of what the conversation between the 911 operator and Zimmerman. Might I remind you what the 911 operator said when Zimmerman said, "Well, I'm following him." Well, we don't. Quote, the 911 operator said, "We don't need you to do that." Now, what's going through Zimmerman's mind? Oh, the hell you don't. We've had a number of break-ins in this area already, and it takes the cops forever to get here. And by the time they get here, the perpetrators are gone. I'm the neighborhood watch captain, for crying out loud. That's my job. So there you have it. Cops tell you to get all the information you can as safe as you possibly can. They don't tell you, report it and then leave. Oh, let's see. Yeah. There's a possible crime in progress, and the possible potential criminal is leaving. Okay. I just called it in, so I'm not even going to tell you which direction he's going. I'm not even going to follow him. Bye. Cops get there and think, well, that's not helping. Fine, thank you for telling us, but we would have found out sooner or later without you anyway. I mean, that's just the way it is. If your neighborhood, what is neighborhood watch there for? Just what it says. Well, let me tell you something. This case is going to be watched and followed by a lot of neighborhood watch people as well as criminals throughout. If now, again, understand, if Zimmerman is found guilty of anything other than self-defense in this case, simply because he confronted a potential criminal. Now, I'm not saying that Martin is a criminal. I said potential. Then that means that everybody who's a part of neighborhood watches across the country are in the line of fire. You don't want to open up this Pandora's box. You really don't. Well, unless, of course, you want a police state. Then I guess it's okay. But we'll see what happens as the trial goes. And now, all I can say is that none of us on the outside, we don't know all the evidence. We don't have it. And I don't care what the lawyers are pulling in the media. I mean, that's part of their job to do that kind of stuff. The lawyers are pulling all these kind of fast ones on in the Zimmerman case. Well, who cares? Both sides do it. So what? You know, they're jockeying. Hey, the prosecution is jockeying to get a conviction, and the defense is jockeying to get an acquittal. No, lawyers are doing what lawyers do. It doesn't matter. So I say people just need to shut up, sit back, pay attention to the trial and all the evidence as it comes available. I have no interest, vested interest either way. If the man is guilty of something, I doubt it's murder, probably manslaughter if anything. If he's guilty of manslaughter or murder in a second degree or what have you, then the evidence will bear out, so be it. And if the evidence points to the fact that it was purely self-defense, I'm sorry, but so be it. You know, because you sure as hell don't want to be sitting in Zimmerman's position someday when your life is in danger or being threatened, or somebody that you know and love or close to you is being, or some innocent that you know and love is being threatened. You don't want to have to think about, well, if I take this potential perpetrator out, am I going to be guilty of something other than self-preservation? Think about it. You know, you're being pounded. You're getting your nose broken. And now you're fighting and struggling with a gun. What are you going to think? Oh, no, I better not, I better let him shoot me. Otherwise, I'll be guilty of killing him. Yeah, no, I don't think so. You're going to take him out. Hey, speaking of, because everybody's saying that this is a racial issue, and Zimmerman is a racist. No, I don't think so. But here's something that just might be a little tad on the racial side, as well as bringing to light my belief that now let's not take this the wrong way. Now pay attention to this, because this is important. Cops today have too much power. Now, I am not saying that we don't need cops. Yes, we do. I'm not saying that being a cop is not a tough job, because yes, it is. But they have too much power, and this is why. Here a sober driver is charged with DUI, even though he had a 0.000 blood alcohol content. Now, this is out in Arizona, and an Ohio man was charged with DUI after he was pulled over by police. Now, this is a Mail Online, Daily Mail UK story. Notice how none of this kind of stuff doesn't show up in U.S. Media stories. You got to go overseas in order to get the truth, right? So an Ohio man was charged with DUI after his car was pulled over by the police, despite the fact that a breathalyzer test showed he had a blood alcohol content of 0. 64-year-old Jesse Thornton, a black man who now lives in Surprise, Arizona, said cops told him that they could tell he was drunk simply by looking at him. Now, again, remember, he's a 64-year-old black man. Now, you got to understand something about black men, older black men. I don't, and this is Africans, period. I don't know why it is, but their eyes tend to yellow, and their blood vessels tend to make their eyes look red a lot. And there are some people that look like, even when they've had plenty of sleep, and they're wide awake and not tired, they have bloodshot eyes. It may have to do with high blood pressure or elevated blood pressure. I know blacks suffer from high blood pressure a lot. Now, Mr. Thornton explained that in the evenings he runs errands and goes to the gym, but a late-night swim might have led to the DUI accusation. Now, Surprise Police Department, the town is named Surprise, Arizona, Surprise. Police department paperwork shows that Thornton was pulled over for crossing the white line in his lane. Wow. I've seen a lot of people, including cops, do that. But an officer walked up and said that, I can tell you're driving DUI by looking at your eyes. I take my glasses off, and he says, you've got bloodshot eyes again. Big deal. Now, the 64-year-old Mr. Thornton said, I've been swimming at LA Fitness, he says. The cop says, I think you're DUI. We're going to do a sobriety test. And Mr. Thornton said, okay, but I got bad knees and a bad hip with surgery in 2 days. Now, Thornton was indeed scheduled to have hip surgery 2 days later after this incident. Now, I couldn't even sit on the ground like that, and they knew it, and I was like laying on the ground. Then they put me in the back of an SUV, and when I asked the officer to move her seat up because my hip hurt, she told me to stop whining. Now, Thornton said 2 other officers arrived, and they conducted the sobriety test with a BAC, or blood alcohol level, of 0.000. The situation should have been resolved quickly, but Thornton was evaluated for possible drug use as well. Yes, I do the breathalyzer, and it comes back 000, said Mr. Thornton. While in custody, a DRE, or drug recognition expert, is called in to test him. After he does all the tests, he says, I would never have arrested you. You show no signs of impairment. Now, Mr. Thornton says, I've been stopped 10 times in Surprise and given 4 tickets. It's amazing. I then get this message that my license is being suspended and I have to take some sort of drinking class or something, he said. Mr. Thornton now claims that it wasn't DUI, but motivated by race. I was driving while black, he proclaimed. I just don't want any of this to happen to someone else. His latest incident with the Surprise police officers prompted him to hire a lawyer, and he plans to sue the department for $500,000. If this is the case, then good for him. I do know about issues and situations of quote-unquote driving while black. And I do know that there tends to be, especially, certain age groups of officers that have a little bit of power trip issues. This is one reason why I say cops, unless they've been in the military and trained in the military, should not be under the age of 25. There is not enough maturity there. They just shouldn't be allowed to be cops at 18 to 24. I mean, that's ridiculous. Secondly, I'm sorry, cops shouldn't be allowed to be fat either. Look, I've seen cops that were they're probably 300 pounds. And that's just, who are they going to arrest? Who are they going to chase down? Who are they going to protect? Can't even get out of their own way, let alone, helping somebody else. But cops just have too much power. I told you, you can be arrested for anything. That doesn't mean you're guilty of anything, but it does kind of ruin your day for a while. So in other words, you don't even have to be drunk. You don't even have to have had a sip of liquor in order for a cop to say, well, I think you're drunk and I'm going to arrest you for DUI or DWI, whatever your state calls it. Why? Because he's got a badge? That makes no sense. Because he's got a badge, he can harass you that way? No, that makes no sense. Whether or not this is a racial incident or not is irrelevant. That just adds to the problem. The problem is that we're giving police officers way too much power. Back in the good old days, that was not the case. But hey, I guess we're used to government being encroaching on our freedoms and whatnot, as some people might say. We're used to that kind of stuff, aren't we? We don't mind it anymore. We like it. I mean, look at this NSA scandal. Yes? Somebody want to tell me we don't have an issue there? How about recently today the news of what's his name coming out is supposedly being the. Now I don't really buy the fact that he's necessarily deep throat in this. So he might be a scapegoat, but in any case, here's a story about Obama. Did Obama just destroy the U.S. internet industry? And you have to understand that the World Wide Web is pretty much, and this is what some people on the left hate, the World Wide Web was pretty much invented by the United States. The World Wide Web was developed pretty much by companies here in the United States. I mean, think about it. The world, we're now, China's starting to open up, and China has some different types of companies out there. Well, they basically, there's a couple of Chinese versions of Facebook, and you have to understand, China's got 1.2 billion people now, so that's a huge market, and we've only got 300 million here in the U.S. and 300 million in the European Union. So putting all that together, the West, I guess you could say, all the countries of the West have about as many people as just China alone. Yeah, it's not including, what is the estimate? More than 60%? 2/3. I do believe that was a number that I had read. So 2/3 of the world's population is Asian. So I guess when you look at it those terms, we're all minorities compared to Asians. And I know Indians from India and Pakistanians and that type of thing, they're all Asian too. But basically for our purposes, there's not nearly 900 million Indians from India. There's 1.2, 1.3 billion Chinese. There's probably, hey, there you go. That's 2 billion people right there. There's 7 billion in the world, and you're talking about the rest of Asia. I can easily see how it could be 2/3 of the world's population is Asian. But the point is that we invented it, the United States. We promoted it. We helped it to progress to the point that it is today. We have the biggest internet companies on the planet right here in the United States. Things like Apple and Facebook, Google and Microsoft and Yahoo and Skype. And I know some of these websites are part of Google now, like YouTube, but they weren't always the case. And you're looking at other, like Pinterest and all these other social webs and these other, software companies like Oracle and things like, that's all. Those are all U.S. formed, U.S. based, U.S. invented companies. Now, the news about the National Security Agency's PRISM program and its privileged access to internet user data at 9 U.S. internet companies has unleashed a torrent of justified anger and hand-wringing. But the worries do not go far enough. Almost everybody is still looking at this through a narrow domestic lens. Our values and goals may be more challenged than you think. And this is coming from a story. David Kirkpatrick, chief techno-omist at Techonomy Media. And the internet is intrinsically a global business and social landscape, yet up until now, American companies have overwhelmingly dominated. They have done so with the astonishing innovation and technical achievement. Apple, Facebook, Google, Microsoft, Skype, Yahoo, and YouTube, all companies said to be participating in PRISM, are the world's most important digital platforms for communications and information sharing. The economic and political benefits, both to the U.S. and to the world of this domination, are obvious. Not only are they by far the world's most valuable set of businesses for investors, They have created extraordinary value for their users by fostering an openness and landscape for free expression and dialogue that is unprecedented. And now they want to get into bed with the government and track your every online move. Now, understand, a lot of times you're giving companies by fiat permission to load your computer with cookies. Now, these cookies are what are able these websites able to tell that you're you when you come back to visit them again. This is how you're able to get on with the automatic sign on. It's due to cookies. These cookies also allow these companies to be able to tell them where you've been. Because it's amazing the analytics you can get from this stuff. This stuff can tell you the website that you were on before you came to their website. And then it could tell them exactly what website you went to after you left their website. Now, some of these cookies can tell a lot more about where you've been and where you go before and after you hit their website. And they say that this is information that they use in order to, better customize your online experience. In other words, to better post ads to you that may be of more interest. Now, I always find it amazing that I'll just have I'll have an idea or whim of something, and I'll check it online. And lo and behold, on certain, not all the websites that I frequent, but on certain websites that I frequent, like Facebook, all of a sudden, I'll start seeing ads that are more related to my last search. I think, well, I don't really have all that much of an interest in this particular subject, so why am I getting ads? Or it'll try to predict what you might be interested in. Because it'll try to put two and two together, like, especially since I do a lot of research for this show and the website. I'm probably confused. I'm probably raising red flags left and right in our government. Now, what's this guy doing? Why is he looking this up? Why is he looking that up? Because then I'll get survivalist. I'll look something up about survivalists. Why? Because I might have seen something. Because it's so easy to watch TV, even when you're watching, Netflix and anything that's non-cable or network. It's something, especially if you're sitting on Netflix and you're scrolling through Netflix, and Netflix has just a plethora of different subjects that you can of shows you can watch, right? So you'll come across, you'll see it, and you think, and something will flash across my mind, like. Survivor Man. They have Survivor Man on Netflix. Then I'll just pop up my iPad or my laptop, and while I'm sitting there watching Netflix on my couch, and I might pick up something, survival or camping stuff, right? Because of Survivor Man. And next thing I know, when I'm online again, and some of the sites that I visit, like Facebook, I'm being bombarded by survivalist type and camping type ads. Now, if Facebook knows that, what makes people think that our government doesn't know that? And what is our government going to do with that information? And I can tell you, they could do this all over the world. And it's not good for any of us, for our government to be able to snoop on us individually in such a manner. Remember, the cops already have too much power on the street. Now, can you imagine if you multiply that with a federal agent who's going to be knocking on your door because maybe for a research paper or out of the blue you just decided to input into your computer, into a Google search or a Bing search or a Yahoo search, 3D printed guns. Or maybe you combine it and say, well, I wonder if you could 3D print a bomb. And you may not have any intention of actually doing it yourself, but maybe you're in it for self-preservation. Guess who's tracking you, and now you become a red flag? Think about it, folks. And then there's a knock on your door, kind of like the Minority Report that I mentioned to you last week. You're guilty of a crime that you never even thought about committing. In other words, you were DUI without ever having taken a sip of alcohol. Now, do you really think that's fair?
DJ Trivia. DJ Trivia is a fun, live, interactive trivia game involving several teams and a DJ host. Any subject may be among 20 multiple-choice questions shown on screen at your favorite bar or restaurant and can lead your team to the grand prize. DJ Trivia. If DJ Trivia is not yet at your favorite hangout, tell them to check out DJ Trivia by calling Nobody Entertainment at 864-915-8114. Find out everywhere DJ Trivia is across the upstate and in Asheville Sunday through Thursday night at upstatedjtrivia.com.
From Iraq and Afghanistan, our brave warriors are coming home, wounded. Some with wounds you can see, some with wounds you can't see. Wounded Warrior Project was created to support our men and women coming off the battlefield. Please help carry these warriors the rest of the way home. Get involved at woundedwarriorproject.org.
Welcome to the Bureau of Womanhood Conformity. Independent thoughts are considered subversive because all must agree with our leader.
When it comes to women, preventative care should include coverage of contraceptive services such as birth control.
You see, if you don't believe government should pay for your birth control, you're not a real woman. Womanhood denied. If you refuse to accept that pregnancy is a punishment, you're denied as well.
I don't want them punished with a baby.
If you don't believe that abortions should be allowed for any reason, if you don't believe in aborting a child for being the wrong gender, and if you don't believe that stay-at-home mothers aren't real workers, you are not a real conformed woman.
His wife has actually never worked a day in her life. His wife has actually never worked a day in her life.
Finally, for your safety, if you oppose mandatory government health care, you will die.
They will be voting to say that women can die on the floor.
These standards and regulations were formed after our glorious victory in the war on women. Thank you for your cooperation and your conformity.
And on the 9th day, God spilled some coffee on an angry possum, and God made a liberal. God said, I need someone willing to get up at the crack of noon and check their Facebook and tweet vile things, take a nap, borrow money from their parents, and stay out all night drinking Paps ironically and snorting bath salts and wine until midnight. So God made a liberal. He said, I need a person that can take a thriving community and turn it into a debt-ridden post-apocalyptic welfare state. I need someone who thinks meat is murder, produce is raised in grocery aisles, who can't fix a flat tire or change her own oil, and who, when forced to finally get a job as a barista, makes you wait for your latte while they play Angry Birds on their iPhone and then takes his union-mandated 2-hour break. So God made a liberal. God said, I need somebody dumb enough to believe in global warming and deficit spending, yet arrogant enough to look down at hard-working folk because they don't have a worthless PhD in 17th century Belgian lesbian studies. It had to be someone that would tax and spend, sue and attack, flip and flop, legislate from the bench and pass an unread bill. A person that would take a story of American success and turn it into a lesson of injustice. So God made a liberal. It had to be someone who'd lie to themselves and others and envy the successful. Someone to whine, cry, demand, screech, and scream sexist, intolerant, xenophobic, homophobic, Islamophobic, racist, bigot. It had to be someone that at the end of the day they could go home after helping rip apart a country with divisive race and class war, and who would laugh and then sigh with mocking eyes, thinking, if I hadn't aborted all my children, they'd probably say they want to spend their life doing what Dad does. So God made a liberal.
Today is a special day. Today we gather as a nation and as an international community to recognize the selfless decision of one of the most influential women of our time. She's been recognized by religious figures and politicians around the world. To us, she's just Rachel. But to the rest of the world, she's the woman who, after having one too many drinks, chose not to drive home buzzed. Here today to honor Rachel is the family whose lives she spared.
Save a life. Don't drive buzzed. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
I was in chronic pain, and my family struggling to make ends meet, food and gas prices going up, even keeping my job was iffy. Then I learned about a new miracle drug made in Washington, D.C., Spenditol. Spenditol is Washington's answer to all the painful problems Americans face. How to borrow $800 billion for a stimulus that didn't create jobs or fix the economy? Spenditol.
Spenditol is not for everyone. Side effects may include a mountain of government debt piled on our kids, a sudden loss of freedoms, higher prices for everything, leaving our kids a lesser America than we had. Ask your doctor or congressman if your conscience is strong enough for Spenditol.
And it's so popular in Washington, we have to import trillions more of it from China. Spenditol makes you feel better now and pushes off the really bad stuff till later, for them to deal with.
Call the White House and Congress. Tell them, stop spending it all.
The Rod Eccles Show.
And we are back here on the Rod Eccles Show. State, this is from WND, worldnetdaily.com. State imposes double standard for green industry. Yes, Democratic-controlled Colorado has already done Barack Obama's bidding by passing draconian limits on the Second Amendment, opposing the same-sex civil unions on voters who rejected it, and then boosting the abortion industry. Now Democrats in that state are advancing the White House's green energy agenda, which establishes a double standard for urban and rural consumers. Now, understand those rural consumers out there in Colorado are more likely to think Republican and conservative than they are Democrat. So it's no surprise that this is coming down to harm them. But Governor John Hickenlooper, I know you can't make up that name. Seriously, this is it's Hickenlooper. Anyway, this is Governor John Hickenlooper signed a bill that has been criticized as a benefit to the environmentalist lobby at the expense of rural residents. With the signing of the Rural Foreclosure Relocation Act, that's the name of it, Rural Foreclosure Relocation Act, the governor is subsidizing special interests in the environmental lobby on the backs of rural Coloradians who already are experiencing unemployment rates nearly twice the national average. Now, Democrats in the State House previously admitted that Vice President Joe Biden had pressed them to pass severe limits on guns without any support from the GOP, which they did. In the last hours of the session, Democrats rammed through another bill without any input from Republican lawmakers. SB 252 requires rural electric utilities to get 20% of their electricity from renewable resources by 2020, while urban utilities in cities in Colorado, such as Denver and Boulder, are required to only get 10% by 2020. Now, the new standard doubles the energy requirement for the amount agreed to by rural electric co-ops just 3 years ago when they adopted a 10% energy standard. Now we're changing the standard on them. We're changing the rules midstream. Now, Democrats and liberals, they don't have a problem with changing the rules in the middle of the game. Look, they tried that in 2000 with the Bush-Gore election. Now, while wind and solar are defined as renewable energy that count towards the goal, hydropower, which many rural electric associations use, does not count. So understand this. In order for your renewable energy to be counted as renewable energy in the state of Colorado, it has to be solar or wind. Anything created by water, hydro or geothermal, hydropower, is not considered renewable. And it cannot count. Where do they come up with this stuff? And y'all think that it's we conservatives that are the problem. How does that make any sense? Now combine that with the fact that in a lot of places you cannot build a wind farm. Now, frankly, if it's in a populated area, I think it's justified because we hear it from all kinds of people, and there's science coming out about this as well. Is that windmills are noisy and they have certain sounds and vibrations that are disruptive to humankind. So fine. Don't put it in an urban area. Don't put it in towns, even small towns in Vermont. I can fully understand that. But there's not a problem with putting it 10 miles off the coast. Well, I guess if you're a seagull, if you don't pay attention to that big bird or those things, those big flappy things going around in the wind that create an awful lot of noise, and you decide to investigate and get too close and you get whacked by one of those things, and you probably deserve to die. But that's the only thing that's going to count is solar. Now, I don't know about you. Where are they going to put solar panels? We're talking Colorado. You try to put solar in the Rocky Mountains, everybody's going to talk about, well, geez, you're covering up the Rocky Mountain landscape. Try to put some windmills up there on the Rocky Mountains, too, and see what happens. But you can't use hydro, though, because that doesn't count towards. This is ridiculous. And now I don't see how that can possibly stand. If you live out in the country, if you're not in the city like Denver or Boulder, you got to get 10%. How much is their rural electricity bill going to go up? Of course it's payback. Yes, it's payback for not electing or voting for Obama. Does anybody have any doubt of that? If you're a liberal and you have doubt, I'll help you figure that one out. It's payback for that. There is a lawmaker in Atlanta, Georgia, who says that they should hire more whites to run the government. Now, Rob Pitts is a county commissioner in Atlanta, Georgia, and he says that the county needs to hire more whites, as in white people. Yeah, really. And by the way, Pitts is a registered black Democrat. Now, he said, I would encourage the county manager to find ways to inform all ethnicities when new positions arise and make a concerted effort to diversify our employee base. That was in a recent email to constituents in Fulton County. Personnel Board Chairman Paul Zucca says, still today the workforce needs more diversity. It is important for the people of Fulton County to feel empowered, to feel equal, he said. The issue is that the county employees have become heavily weighted in favor of blacks, and that has generated a series of costly court cases. Now, here's a black Democrat saying, "Hey, we need to hire more white people." Look, it's Atlanta, Georgia. Look, I'm of the opinion you should just forget about skin color. Just look at the person's qualifications. Shouldn't matter whether or not, they're black, white, red, yellow, purple, green, blue. It doesn't, I guess they really can't be blue. If they're blue, they're probably dead. Well, hell, there are probably some dead people who are more qualified to work in government than some of the people who currently are alive and working in government. And I'm only being half facetious about that, because sometimes you've got to wonder, some of these government employees, if they are walking zombies or walking dead. Really? I'm being serious. But anyway, whatever happened to just when you get to the point where the most talented or qualified, no matter what their ethnic or religious background is, whatever happened to Martin Luther King's dream about measuring a man by the content of his character instead of the color of his skin? Sometimes when I remind blacks about that, they tell me, "Oh, Rod, you just have this slave mentality, or you've been brainwashed." Really? Well, have you forgotten those are the words of Dr. Martin Luther King? I even had some people argue with me and say Dr. King didn't say anything like that. I'm not going to get into a discussion about that, but this is how idiotic some of our educational system has gotten. Not some, but our kids don't even know what Dr. Martin Luther King has said. We're talking 1965, 68. We're talking the famous "I Have a Dream" speech. And people are going to argue with me and try to tell me, well, Dr. King didn't say that. And Dr. King was a Democrat. No, he wasn't. And yeah, he did say that. So, but that's it. And here we've got Rob Pitts. I mean, some people probably saying Rob Pitts didn't say that, and Rob Pitts will probably stand there and say, "Yeah, I did say that," and they will argue with him that he didn't say it. Well, I mean, what difference? Look, I've argued with people that have said I've said something. And I said, "No, I didn't say it." And they say they can prove it. I say, "Well, prove it." And then they'll play something, and then they'll look at me, "See, you said it." And I'm thinking, I know some people can see different colors from other people. It's called color blindness sometimes. But a word is a word. A sentence is a sentence. And if you said, "I said something," and you play a tape or a recording of what I supposedly said, and it doesn't sound anything like what you said I said, then where's your proof? So this is the same thing with Martin Luther King didn't say that. Well, yeah, he did. No, he didn't. Well, I got proof. Oh, that ain't no proof. Oh, you brainwashed, Rod. You brainwashed. This is, those people you can't. There are certain people that you can argue with, but those kind of people you can't argue with because they're just idiots. And there's no getting through to them. Schiff is to introduce a bill ending the war on terror authorization. Representative Adam Schiff was going to introduce a bill today to repeal the authorization for use of military force which Congress passed after September 11th attacks to authorize the president to fight the war on terror. Wait a minute. I thought Bush had no right to do anything, to use force. Well, guess what? There it is right there. And you got a congressman who's introducing a bill to repeal the very law that gave the president the power to do what he's doing today. So the proposal would sunset the authorization for use of military as of December 31st, 2014. Because, hey, we've got a war on terror has got to end. Right? Yeah. Can't go on forever. Because I said so. Oh, we got it. I got Osama bin Laden. So, I mean, terror is over. War on terror, we're done. We got Iraq. Getting out of Afghanistan. I bombed Libya. And now we're going to arm the rebels in Syria. So the war on terror is over. That's it. We don't need this authorization for use of military anymore. And by the time the Syrian thing is over, we could disband the U.S. military. Look, we've cut the military so much, and don't be surprised if there are some people are already talking about, Ron Paul talked about that. Disbanding the military and parking the Navy. Yeah, as if we can Minuteman the Navy. Yeah, we can get the Navy up and running in 30 minutes flat. We can get those ships all steamed up. No, it doesn't work that way. But yeah. So we have the law, which gives the president the power to use military force to fight the war on terror. The very law that many Democrats voted for to give Bush this power, who some of these liberals are saying, well, the president doesn't have that kind of power. Well, yeah, we gave it to him. And people want to try to ignore that. But now we have a congressman saying, well, guess what? We have this unlimited power that we need to sunset or bring to an end now. So we'll see how far that goes. And Rick Perry, it's from Newsmax. Rick Perry plans a $1 million ad campaign to lure New York businesses to Texas. Yeah, Texas Governor Rick Perry plans a $1 million television advertising campaign targeting New York businesses as he promotes the Lone Star State's economy, said Lucy Nash, a spokeswoman. Perry will visit New York City starting June 16th as a part of his effort to lure businesses, Nash said in an email. He also plans a stop in Connecticut during the 4-day trip. The governor's office announcing Monday. The Texas Tribune first reported this. Perry's message is not new. He has taken it to other states. The Tribune reported that it boils down to Texas wants you, namely your jobs and investment capital, which then turns into government dollars. The governor's job recruitment trips are doing exactly what was intended, getting the word out about the low taxes, smart regulations, fair legal system, and skilled workforce that have made Texas a beacon for employers. Now, we have found a formula in Texas that has made us the best state in the nation to live, work, and raise a family and run a business. And it's a formula that other states in our federal government would do well to replicate. The 30-second ads will feature Texans from a variety of professions, from filmmakers to doctors, extolling the virtues of the state's economy. They will run on CNBC, Fox News, CNN, ESPN, and the Discovery Channel for a week. And all he's got to do is just lure one or two big companies and a few smaller companies down there, and that'll take care of the taxes that they'll end up paying. Will cover the cost of the campaign. That's I think it's a brilliant move. Hey, New Yorkers and Connecticutans, those in Connecticut, if y'all are tired of being overtaxed and overregulated and overburdened, come to Texas, the Sunshine State, where it's warm, there's low regulation, low taxes, highly intelligent workforce, and you know what? Did we say it's warm? And did we say to remind to tell you that there's a smart government regulation, which means state government isn't on your back all the time, which means low taxes? Did we say low taxes? Yeah, right here in Texas. Low taxes. Come on down, enjoy the warm weather and low taxes and low government regulation burden which means, guess what? You get to keep more of your money. Come to Texas. Yeehaw! But hey, you know, you look at some of the states and they're scratching their heads. They're trying to figure out, well, why are we losing so many businesses and so many people? Why is our population going down and these other states' population going up? And they don't get the fact. Well, we got to raise taxes to cover the shortfall. They don't seem to get the fact that maybe cutting their taxes and regulation would bring those businesses back. But no, they want to raise. I find it amazing when you're in an economic downturn. You got liberal Democrats because they're not bringing in. Let's say they need $1 billion in tax revenue, and now because people are leaving their jurisdiction and businesses are leaving the jurisdiction and people are unemployed, they're not making $1 billion. So what do they want to do? They want to raise taxes so they can keep making the $1 billion. Screw the people that are already there suffering. The government's still got to have that $1 billion, so we're going to raise taxes so we can have the $1 billion. Instead of thinking, well, we better just cut back a little bit ourselves. Let's lower the taxes, lower the burden. Maybe business will come back in. Take advantage of the low taxes. People will start being hired to get put back to work, and we'll make more tax revenue that way. So instead of $1 billion, if we get a economic boom going on in this little area over here in our jurisdiction, we'll make $1.5 billion. We'll have even more money to spend. But see, liberals don't think that way because that's not fair to cut somebody else's taxes. Not fair. They got to pay their fair share. So you got to raise taxes. Got to raise them taxes. CBS is reporting that the State Department covered up drug prostitution rings in the diplomatic ranks. This is CBS, folks. Now, we'll probably talk more about this tomorrow. Earlier today, there was a handshake given between China and the United States, between the leaders of China and the U.S., including Obama, and the U.S. president and the Chinese president. But about global warming. Yeah, China is going to do its, is going to participate with the U.S. in trying to cut back on global warming. Now, at the same time, because I said earlier today that there's no way in hell China is going to try to hold back its economic growth because it's going gangbusters right now. And you're also talking China, the country which is the site of the greatest environmental disaster in the history. The Three Rivers or Three Gorges Dam project in China, environmental disaster there. China. But now China, Nicaragua, in Central America, Nicaragua, gives Chinese firm a firm contract to build alternative to Panama Canal. So now we're going to have the Panama Canal and the Nicaraguan Canal built by Chinese. Yeah, that's really environmentally sound and friendly. And you can better believe that in Nicaragua, they're not going to care about, too much about the environment and how this thing is built. If they're going to go ahead and do it, Nicaragua has awarded a Chinese company a 100-year concession to build an alternative to the Panama Canal in a step that looks set to have profound geopolitical ramifications. The president of the country's National Assembly, René Nunez, announced the $40 billion project, which will reinforce Beijing's growing influence on global trade and weaken U.S. dominance over the key shipping route between the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. There you have it. There you have it. That has everything to do with environmentalism. Building a second canal. Just so they could cause the U.S. influence to dwindle. Gotta love those Chinese, don't you? Yeah, they're our friends for sure. Well, we will be back here tomorrow, same bat time, same bat channel, for 2-hour edition of the Rod Eccles Show. Until then, this has been the Rod Eccles Show Express. I'll catch you tomorrow. I'm out.